is tell you a little bit about EQUIS, the accreditation system of EF&D, the European Foundation for Management Development. I will begin by telling you a little bit about EF&D, but probably in a short way, since I knew that I was following Jerry, okay, I can explain many things by reference to AACSB. So we could begin by saying that EF&D is the European version of AACSB, okay, in short. Okay, of course there are differences between that. It is true that we do cooperate and we do respect a lot what AACSB does, and I think that between Jerry and I personally there is one good friendship, okay? But yes, we are competitors, okay? So this, what he said about the highest standard in accreditation of business school, of course you must assume that I'm going to repeat, okay? It is up to you to discover who's right. Incidentally, I think that this comment is important, and let me begin by that. Accreditation systems, mainly international accreditation systems, but this is something that you also have to take into account in developing CADEA. Inadvertently, whether you want or not, end up driving the strategies of business schools. Okay? Frequently, business schools say, well, what it is that I have to do to satisfy these quality standards and be among the selected group of accredited schools. Because of that, it would be really dangerous that the world ended up having a monopoly of international accreditation agencies. So we believe that, and I think that we have talked about this several times, we believe that the world looks better with two international accreditation agencies at least, okay? And what we are trying to do is to be able to convey differential values to schools, because of course, if we were simply conveying the same values, one of that would be redundant. Now, a few facts about EF&D. We have more than 520 member organizations. 75% of these members are academic institutions, business schools. 23% are corporations, and 2% are agencies in the public sector. We are present in more than 65 different countries. I believe it's 67 today. And the non-European membership represents 25% of those members and growing. We're proud to have a few Korean members in EF&D. At any individual year, EF&D ends up involving more than 10,000 individuals in its different annual activities. EF&D mission is to be a catalyst in order to enhance management education, but also management development in Europe and beyond Europe. EF&D basic activities can be placed in three different fields. One would be networking. We create events for our members to share experiences and knowledge. Usually our events are organized around a given function in a business school. So we have an MBA directors meeting, we have a deans and directors meeting, we have an external relations meeting, so that the people with these responsibilities in business schools can get together and exchange their views. We try to create also a bridge between the academic world and practitioners. The second area of activity is related to quality services. Basically, we try to cooperate in improving management education and management development. Finally, the third area we call development, and basically it involves projects representing wider and longer-term contributions to management education, not always, but often in developing areas. Let me give you a few examples of development. For example, I think most of you probably are familiar with the China-Europe International Business School in Beijing. This school was created in part with the support of the European Union through EFMD. EFMD today is a member of the board of the China-Europe International Business School. Currently, we're involved in the project of creating a similar school in Morocco. Immigration from Africa into Europe is a challenging and pressing issue, and from this point of view, we believe that the best we can do to alleviate that problem is provide better education in Northern African countries. Another projects in which we have been involved are the creation of accreditation agencies for business schools in certain countries. Kazakhstan, Pakistan came to my mind, and I think that we have cooperated in some others. By cooperating, I mean being hands-on involved in the creation of these agencies. Now, very quickly, I'm going to tell you about EQUIS, but I would like you to know that EFMD runs 4 different accreditation systems. EPASS is currently being created. It stands for EFMD Program Accreditation System, and it is a new accreditation for programs in management, for degree programs in management. There is a very specific reason for EFMD to develop a program accreditation system which relates, I'm not going to tell you the whole story now, but of course if someone is interested I can tell you later. But the main reason has to do with the Bologna Agreement and the need to achieve convergence among the different programs in Europe. That makes program accreditation especially welcome at this stage. CLIP stands for Corporate Learning Improvement Process, and in short, it would be the equivalent of EQUIS for corporate universities, for the learning units of corporations. CLIP is doing very well. It started a couple of years ago. It has already accredited the learning units of 9 corporations. And for me, the most relevant feature of CLIP is that it really indicates that these accreditations are about improvement, that they really contribute improvement to the units being accredited. Why is that? Well, you can understand that an institution could try to get AACSB or EQUIS accreditation just because that way you can get a kind of sealed medal or badge, okay, that you can show your competitors that says basically, I'm different, I'm better, okay? And it could be a good reason for that. But in the case of CLIP, what would be the interest of a corporate university in getting such a badge? They are not trying to get students from the corporation next door. They have their own captive market. And still, they are very interested in going through this kind of accreditation, mainly because of the learning, the possibilities of improvement that the process of accreditation contribute to that. Finally, I'm not going to talk a lot about that. There is an accreditation called Certification of E-Learning. This accreditation was created at the time of the internet boom, okay, and it's very likely going to be absorbed within EPASS. Understand that most programs these days have a little of learning and possibly more as the time goes by. EQUIS in the world. We have 86 accredited schools, 27 outside Europe, in all 6 continents. We have schools accredited in all continents now. 23 of the 86 accredited, by the way, there may be some news, it is the first time we are younger than AACSB. Okay? We were born in 1998, okay? That's why we have a lot of respect. We young people have a lot of respect for the wisdom of the older people, okay? I think that this is common in all cultures, okay? Now, for the first time, the list of accredited schools has gone down. Okay, last time we were 87, and this time we are 86, which is a proof that in EQUIS, the school can lose its accreditation. Okay, it's not granted for life. Of the 86 accredited schools, 23 have received what we call conditional accreditation. What is a conditional accreditation? It is an accreditation that you obtain when you still need to do some homework. But this homework is doable in a couple of years, maybe 3 years. If we believe that that's the case, we will grant you a conditional accreditation, and we will be checking every year the progress you are making towards accreditation, towards full accreditation. For you to get an idea of the activity of EQUIS, we have currently, because it has not ended yet, 29 reviews scheduled in 2005. 17 of them were new schools trying to get EQUIS accreditation, and 12 were re-accreditation reviews. Every school needs to be re-accredited every 5 years. Okay? Currently, we have already 22 reviews scheduled in 2006, and this is up to September. So we imagine that we will end up accrediting a similar number than in 2005. We have at this stage 25 schools formally in the pipeline. Formally means that they have already applied formally, of which 16 come from outside Europe. I can tell you that even though 9 schools are coming from Europe and 16 from outside Europe, at this stage, probably we could say that it is more likely that one of the 16 outside Europe ends up getting accreditation than it is for the European schools. Because basically, in most European countries, schools that could aim to get EQUIS accreditation are probably there. There are a few left, but not that many. Basically, EQUIS gets about 15 new applications per year on average, 15 new schools. So of course, you have to understand that this is the consequence of a lot of self-selection. There are many more institutions that approach EQUIS trying to learn whether EQUIS may be for us and we may be for EQUIS, and some of them conclude that that's not the case. We have currently 7 schools in a process that we call guided development out of 26 possible schools that could be in this process. Now, guided development is a process that we set up for schools that attempt to get accreditation. We tell them that yes, we got the door open towards accreditation, but they failed to get accreditation in the end. When we analyze the institutions in detail, we realize that no, they are not ready for accreditation. That this tells you that this has already happened with 26 schools. The 26 schools in the end did not get EQUIS accreditation. Of them, 7 have decided to enter this guided development process. What are the objectives of EQUIS, or what are the benefits of international accreditation? I'm going to go quickly through this because they are almost common sense. Okay, international comparison and benchmarking. Basically, what you will get is the opportunity to get your school benchmarked, not against your close competitor, not against your domestic competitors, which you usually know very well, but against international competitors that you may not know that well. Okay? Therefore, you will be measuring your school against international standards on internationally recognized criteria. Another benefit is that you will be able to focus on quality while preserving the freedom of strategic choice that, of course, any business school must have. You move towards good practice without sacrificing diversity. You will continue to do what you chose to do in the way you chose to do it, but you will do it better. Acceleration of quality improvement in international management education. Well, we are convinced that this is clear for schools individually. Okay? Unfortunately, I have to admit that the degree of improvement is more drastic and faster for schools that fail to get accreditation than for schools that get conditional accreditation, and finally for schools that manage to get accreditation for obvious reasons. Okay? First, there's less to improve, and second, there is less incentive to improve it, okay, in the latter case. But it also has an impact on management education systems. Let me give you an idea of what I mean. In the UK, we have 15 schools accredited. In France, we have 14 schools accredited. In Germany, we have 2 schools accredited. Now, one would expect that France, UK, Germany being more or less similar economies, with independence of the ups and downs that each country may face at a given point in time, you would expect to find in Germany as many schools accredited as you could find in the UK or France. But we have only managed to give accreditation to 2 of them. Okay? What is the reason? The reason is related to the education system, in our case to the management education system, but in general to the education system. The way German business schools are run implies that every single decision, every single relevant decision has to be made by the full faculty. Okay? The senior professors get together and have to make a decision. This is a wonderful way of making decisions if you're running a school of philosophy. It may even be a good way of making decisions for a school of medicine, but certainly is not a good way of making decisions in a school of business, where you have to be able to respond quickly to the needs of a very fast-changing business world. As a consequence, the German educational authorities have realized that, are concerned about that, and are helping business schools to change and be different. It is also an instrument of institutional strategic development and an agenda for change. Okay, now all business schools are aware of things that need to be changed, that need to be improved, but an accreditation system creates an agenda, okay, sets priorities and puts dates and some planning on that improvement. So from that point of view, it is also important for it also provides market information in a market that is not sometimes that clear. We go into incredible efforts to try to educate students better than students' candidates, okay, so that they can determine what's a good business school. And it is so difficult. So this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide market information to peers, to applicants, to students, to participants in executive engagements, to companies recruiting students, everybody that is important for a business. Okay? It is important that we provide also some information on the issue of domestic reputation versus international quality. What EQUIS is trying to determine is whether the school has international quality. Now, international quality is not the same as domestic reputation. Why not? Well, developing the reputation of a business school domestically sometimes may take up to 20 years. Okay? Now, the issue is that as opposed to the corporate world, losing that reputation also takes 20 years. Okay? So in the end, reputation may not match reality. So the role of an accreditation agency trying to convey to people that international quality matches or does not match domestic reputation is certainly an important contribution in clarifying this market. And international accreditation also facilitates integration in the international community. Now, before international accreditations, you needed to travel somewhere, find what were the good schools there, then see if there was a match, okay? Nowadays, basically, you ask, are you AACSB accredited, are you EQUIS accredited, and the problem is halfway solved, okay? You know that possibly that's going to be a good part. Finally, and I place always this finally, okay, establish an accreditation process through the award of, in this case, the EQUIS quality label, okay? But for us, specifically for us, this is the last of the objectives. We believe that all the others are much more important, okay? And we concentrate on those. what is the EQUIS challenge specifically? The EQUIS challenge is to be able, with a single system of accreditation, to cover a vast diversity. We face institutional diversity. We are dealing with different national education systems. Within different national education systems, we get different types of higher education institutions. They are organized in very different ways. Private and public institutions tend also to perform differently. Then you face program diversity. There are some institutions that have all the chain of activities, first degree programs, postgraduate programs, executive education. Others have 2 of them, others have just 1. And even within a given set, okay, you'll find diverse program formats. You will have 1-year MBAs, 2-year MBAs, okay, part-time MBAs, full-time MBAs, and increasingly you're finding also dual, multiple, joint degrees being built. There's also geographical and cultural diversity. Okay, you'll find different values and expectations. Okay, you'll find different leadership styles. And you'll find different professorial and student roles, okay? In some cultures, the professor is there to make students think, and in order to do that, what they do is challenge the student, and the student can challenge their professor, okay? Now, on the other hand, there are some cultures where the professor cannot be challenged. Wisdom goes one way, okay? So, depending on that, you're facing diverse situations. Now, what is the EQUIS response to this challenge? Well, first, the promotion of diversity. It's not that we tell you, well, we have managed to cope with this evil called diversity. No. For us, diversity is a wonderful resource. It's a source of innovation and creativity, and it provides for a much richer world. So we don't want to preserve it. We want to promote it. We want people to be innovative and creative. As a consequence, for EQUIS, there is no single model, not in the front, not in the back of our mind. There is no single model. Now, being of European origin, diversity is the rule. In Europe, when you drive 100 kilometers in one direction, you find yourself in another country. Okay? So diversity is common among us. Okay? The fact that all Europeans look about the same, except for the fact that some are blonde, some are darker, sometimes hides the amount of diversity that is behind that. Frequently, people mix racial diversity with diversity. You can look the same on all people and still have different ways of thinking. Okay? Not only within the European, not only among European countries, but also within European countries, there's already a lot of diversity. We are not based on any national or historical background. Okay? We are too young to have a history that may bias us, and we do not have a predominant nation that drives our thinking. Okay? The nation where we are more active represents about 15% of a little bit more, about almost 20% of our accreditations. Okay? Now, some things, we believe that some things are better for certain purposes. There is no best way. Okay? I probably can provide an example that is very appropriate in this context, at least to me, I believe. Now, if you move around the world thinking that the way in which, I don't know, a given business school, be it Harvard or be it INSEAD, okay, is the right way to go, and all the rest should try to do things more or less the way they do it, okay, then what you will try in the end, what you will be doing is forcing everybody to behave like Harvard or INSEAD, and possibly to get frustrated, because in order to that you usually need a big endowment that not everybody is able to get. Now, what do I mean by some things are better for certain purposes? Well, let me tell you what I consider to be the right approach to diversity. Where I was born, I was educated being told that the right way to do it is with the knife and the fork. Okay? Now, all of a sudden, for a while, it took me a while, okay, I met some people that use chopsticks to eat, okay, and I was amazed because it seemed to me really difficult to be able to manage these instruments, okay. Now, what is the right approach to diversity or well, after that, of course, I also traveled to other places where people would eat with their fingers, okay, which was even perhaps more shocking for the Europeans, okay. Now, what is the right or the wrong approach to diversity? I think the right approach to diversity is to realize that probably for some things, there's nothing better than your fingers to eat. For other things, chopsticks and a bowl are wonderful. But of course, if you're going to eat a full T-bone steak, probably a fork and a knife would be the best instrument. So depending on what it is that you're trying to do, you're trying to achieve, and how important it is to achieve it one way or another, a difference may be better for this or better for that. There is no single text. What is the wrong approach to diversity? The wrong approach to diversity is to go around the world looking how other people eat, okay? Think that how nice, how funny, how amusing is the way these other people eat, but I'm sorry they're not eating the right way. The right way is with a knife and a fork, okay? Now, this is the wrong approach to diversity. This is flexibility, but flexibility is not the same than rigor coping with diversity. That's something different. It's good, right? Yes. Or whatever. Now, first, learn. We try to understand the local context. In our peer reviews, we always have one local peer reviewer, someone that is knowledgeable of the local context. We try to understand the mission and the strategy of the school, because depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve, we will be more or less demanding on certain aspects. If you tell us that your mission is to be number one research institution, academic research institution in your region, of course, we would expect that your professors meet certain characteristics that will be different than if you tell us that you want to be the leading executive education institution in your country. Okay? We will try to bring an international perspective into the examination of your school, and we will be open to persuasive evidence. That is, if you can convince us that what you're doing is a good job, we will be willing to be persuaded. Only then, after learning, we will be able to assess before we can go. Let me tell you about some of the EPIS differentiating factors. Okay? This is a smooth way to tell you how we're different from AACs. Okay? Basically, since I know Jared was talking before, it's probably the shortest way to explain how we complement each other. Now, we perform institutional assessment. Now, so that AACSB, we assess institutions. But the focus is different, okay? Basically, AACSB will accredit the degree programs of a university, okay? They will look at an entire university, select all the degree programs in business and management and accounting, okay? And it will be the scope of the accreditation. Okay? In the case of EPIS, what we will do is we determine an institution, a business school, a faculty of commerce and business, and we will accredit or we will look at everything that institution does. Degree programs, non-degree programs, you name it. We will look at everything, okay? As a consequence, we include executive education in our accreditations. We will look at, by executive education, I mean non-degree programs as far as executives, okay? Now, we use guided development only after peer review visits. AACSB, if you seem not to be yet at the level where you could expect to get their accreditation, they will be able to send someone to work with you and help you move forward, okay, towards accreditation. We do that, but only after you've gone through the entire process, okay? The reason for that is that we believe that we can only provide valuable advice once we know your school in depth, okay? We're linked to both, we link the accreditation to both academic and corporate aspects, okay? It involves, at all levels, EQUIS involves both academic and corporate stakeholders. In our peer reviews, there are academic and corporate stakeholders, and in all our juries and committees, okay, there are always corporate and academic stakeholders. We try to strike a balance between the academic and professional skills given to students. We want students to know well all the financial techniques and models, okay? But we also want them to be good negotiators, good communicators, and good team leaders, okay? There is an emphasis on personal development, okay? And the corporate links of the institution are a key criterion for accreditation. For us, the strategy and governance of the school is really important. We will not only look or assess that the level of quality of the institution, the current level of quality of the institution is good enough. We will also assess that the objectives, the path that the school wants to follow in the future is clear and adequate, being given its resources. Because of that, we always involve experienced deans in the peer review teams. And by the way, this is not a difference with AACSB. AACSB also provides experienced deans. Okay? Now, internationalization as a key criterion of EQUIS. Now, EQUIS is an international accreditation for international business schools. What does it mean? It means that we use international quality standards. Sometimes the first school in one country has not managed to get accreditation simply because, well, I'm thinking, for example, of some Eastern European countries, okay? We visited the first institution in the country, but we didn't manage to give them EQUIS accreditation because their quality standards were not up to the international level. We expect that the school will be able to achieve very quickly an international reputation. To that, of course, it needs to have established already a domestic reputation. Internationalization of the school culture. The school needs to be a place where a foreigner feels welcome, feels at ease, feels that he does not need to struggle to get something done or completed. And finally, we make a point to have EQUIS be managed by an international team of people. We have a Brit, a French, a Spaniard, and we even have two Belgians, but one from the French side and the other from the Flemish side to provide diversity. Okay? Now, focus on diversity. This means that we tend to be less normative, okay, in general, but very especially with respect to issues of curriculum structure and content. Now, we do not get into a lot of detail about what is being taught in corporate finance in your MBA. Okay, we will look at it, but we will not be dealing in detail whether you're using the right case in the right session if you use cases. Okay? We will be less normative also on the faculty composition and employment. Okay? We will not perform exhaustive audits. We will do random audits. In other words, we will trust the information that the school provides, okay? And we will only from time to time say, okay, I would like to analyze all the details with respect to this issue. Can you provide detailed information about this? And then we count the bins, okay? Therefore, our approach is closer to that of a consultant than to that of an auditor, okay? Now, you can play the role of an auditor, and this is something for you to think, because I don't know what STEM Korean schools may be similarly structured, okay? To the extent that you're dealing with a set of schools that may be more or less uniform, okay, the accreditation may be more based on given indicators, okay? So you play more the role of an auditor. On the other hand, if your schools are very diverse and they do things very, very differently, then you'll prefer to play more the role of a consultant than the role of an auditor. That is, rather than asking for indicators, you will have to ask, why do you say that you have a good faculty? Or why do you say that your students are good? Prove it, okay? Then you choose your own indicators. Quality inequity is framed on 11 criteria. Some of these, the ones mentioned there, are probably the more distinctive or peculiar ways. Very quickly, these are the 11 equity criteria. I just want to call your attention to the fact that the international issues and the corporate connections cut across all the criteria. And the reason is that every time we're considering one of these 9 criteria, we will in addition consider internationalization and corporate connections. For example, when we look at faculty, we would like to assess how international is your faculty and how that contributes to make your school better. But at the same time, we will look at how international is your school and how that helps to make your faculty better. And the same would apply to your corporate connections. Okay? This is the equity structure. Basically, equity is within the F&D, and it is the F&D board that has the last word about how equity works. Okay, but in addition, they have the last. Okay. Now, the first word probably is in the hands of the equity committee. This is a committee of deans and people from the corporate world that think about the strategic development objectives. Okay, how should equity change and evolve to satisfy the needs of schools? The equity awarding body is the final jury. Okay? They are the people that decide whether the school will get accreditation or not. And Equal is a federation of national associations of business schools, and there is a committee of Equal that works as a think tank for equity. They are the people that will say, well, when you are evaluating the research that school performs, how should that be measured? What do we mean these days by good quality research? Okay? This is the equity accreditation process. Basically, it begins with an inquiry. I'm sorry because I didn't realize this red line here may be a little confusing. Try to erase mentally this red line, if it's part of the format of the slide. It all begins with an inquiry, okay, where we basically assess whether it makes any sense to continue the conversation. Okay, if it does, then comes a formal application, which is the first formal screening of the school, which will be based on a short amount of factual information, factual but short but detailed, okay? And on the basis of that, you will be declared eligible or not. Eligibility means that we believe that you can get accreditation in 5 years or less. However, this is a judgment based on very preliminary information. So in the end, the forecast may go wrong. Okay? Now, if you're declared eligible, then comes, as in most accreditation systems these days, a self-assessment phase. Okay? Now, this, just in case you don't know what is self-assessment, is what goes on in most cafeterias of business schools when 2 or 3 professors meet, okay? They tend to criticize the problems of the schools and say, I told them 1,000 times we should do this differently, okay? Now, the difference between the cafeteria self-assessment and this one is that in this one you cannot ignore the parts that are convenient to you. It's a holistic self-assessment, okay? Finally, the peer review is a visit to the school for 2 days and a half. We send 4 people, 3 of them deans of accredited business schools, and 1 of them is someone from the corporate world which is familiar with business schools. Then, on the basis of the report that the peer review writes, you may decide to submit that report to the awarding body, which will be the jury that finally will decide whether you go for, you get equity accreditation or not. Now, if you fail to get equity accreditation, then you can try again after a couple of years, or you can enter the phase of guided development, whether you do the same with the support of equity. The English timing is probably not really important to you at this time, okay? But I simply will tell you that in 1 year and a half, you can manage to go from the beginning to the end of the English accreditation. And this is basically my presentation. Thank you very much.
시간이 잠깐 모아졌습니다만 너무 중요한 얘기를 해서 시간을 분할했습니다. 그리고 휴시간을 조금 더 딜레이를 해도 중요한 문제들이 있으니까 질문이 있으시면 각 분께 두세 분씩 질문을 모아서 한 분이나 각각 답변을 그런 식으로 하겠습니다. We'll have Q&A sessions about 10 minutes. The audience will raise questions about a couple of questions each speakers, and then we'll wrap up the last moment. 질문을 좀 해주시죠.
네, 질문을
예.
I'd like to ask you to both of you. In Jerry and Julia, don't you think that it's time to think of union of accreditation organizations worldwide, establishing kind of organic network of cooperation globally?
I'm not sure I understood what you're suggesting. You're suggesting a unification of all the accreditation agencies in
kind of
one?
union of.
Well, I basically advocated for something differently in my presentation. I think the problem, if you end up merging or coordinating, purposefully, accreditation agencies, then you will have only one accreditation in the world to which you will be aspiring. Now, if this accreditation agency tells you, for you to be good, you have to turn right, then you will organize your strategy to turn right, because unless you turn right, you will not be able to join that accreditation. Now, that may be very, very dangerous. In fact, you probably have read all these articles about the role rankings and accreditations are playing on the strategies of business schools. Okay, what is happening with the business schools? Business schools are doing whatever it takes to get in the right position, in the right ranking. So if the ranking of the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal or Business Week values this is what we are going to devote resources to. Now, is that right? Shouldn't we know what it is that we should be doing to be able to educate students?
I think it's an appropriate question in which I would tell you thought's been given to it. I mean, I'm sure that conversation has been had in more than one venues between folks that we work for at times. To this point, to this stage of the game, there has not been sufficient propensity to go beyond just that assessment, and that we think that if you want to say the state of the art that we represent today of two separate organizations, two separate accreditations, is what we're going to do our thing, and the FMD and ACLIS is going to do their thing, and and I think another perspective on that, and a logical question is, which one should I seek if I want to get international accreditation? And Bill and I were standing here to say, I think what it should be is, that is really up to the school. Which one, if necessary to distinguish, and as you're aware, many schools have both, and that's an appropriate choice as well. That's one of the beauties of it being voluntary on both of our halves, that there may be advantages in each that would represent the needs of a school, and therefore it is preferred one versus the other, and that's the way to proceed. So I would be frank, I'm not optimistic that though I understand the thought and it comes up occasionally, I'm not optimistic that there would be essentially a merger or a combination of two in one process. We have explored, I have to admit, we've explored doing common business. That's been perceived, and by the way, I think, as a staff member, I make no decisions on accreditation. I facilitate the process with my staff. now that the role I'm in now. Used to do a lot of visits when I was a dean. But at this point in time, we concluded that probably, because it probably takes more work for the school to do one visit with all of us there at one time than it does to do separate visits. And that's where we are on that one. So we've given it thought. We concluded that where we are is probably where we're going to stay for a while. But it will periodically come up, I'm sure.
Yeah, if I may round it up a little bit, I think that also in the end, it is a decision for schools. If schools really decide that one accreditation in the world is enough, one class will die, okay? And the market we believe is very wide. That's the reason that we try to remain complementary. We know that the moment that we drift to provide exactly the same thing, of course, one class will be redundant. So we make an effort to be able to provide different services, different values, etc. But even if we don't want to, okay, the way things are evolving are making us different. Okay? Now, AACSB has 506 institutions of credit. Now, you could say that it is because they started in 1916 and have been more time out there, okay? Now, we only have 87. Now, we don't think that if we are 90 years out there, we will end up having 507. So that probably gives a view of what is our view about the business school being excellent. There must be differences when this is the implication. However, again, I see value in both approaches. Okay, I think that whatever your view of excellence, as long as it's different than mine, you're providing value.
All right, let me add a couple of quick.
Please take on questions and we'll get the test question.
Okay.
Yes. My question goes to Dr. Turner. My first question is about the mission statement and assessment. If your organization is going to file same principles on mission statement and assessment to Korean university as you do to American university, for example, Korea is a homogeneous country, so having diversity as a mission is kind of important to us. The second question to you is about selection of peer school. So in Korea, only 3 leading schools are AHSB accredited. Does that mean, let's say, must apply to the AHSB accreditation next year? Does that mean we have to choose these 3 schools as our peer schools, or we have another choice?
First of all, the peer schools are selected by the school. There's no mandate that it has. If your mission, and we look to mission to be very distinctive to your institution, the environment in which you're in. Mission is unique to the institution. We're not prescriptive. Diversity is contextual, very contextual. And so we're looking mainly at, we've been successful here. We hope to be more successful here. We think that the way that schools are organized here are highly successful and can be accredited by us easily. The peer schools, you can choose anybody in the world. That's fine. Matter of fact, we have schools in Europe choosing schools all around the world. Same here. So that choice is really your choice. They should be accredited because we get data provided to help the accreditation process, and we have that data on accredited schools. But peer schools is not limited to the 3 that already hold accreditation in Korea.
Especially without your comment, do you think a school in Europe can understand us very well?
The peer process is not about a school that understands. Okay, the peer process is you selecting schools where we try to provide information to the accreditation process of schools that are similar in mission, degree programs offered, and so on, so that that's a context for the accreditation process that may help you as well as the team understand. It is more difficult in the international setting because we have less schools, but we're working on that. We hope that's going to grow. By the way, I was going to make a comment. There are about 7,000 business schools in the world at this stage of game. We think we've identified. That may be a larger number. It may be actually 8. So there's a lot of business schools. So yours are your choice, not ours. We're not forcing it. We're not trying to force a mission on Korean schools or culturally or anything. Your school should reflect the environment around it, its culture, or the traditions here, and we think we're very comfortable evaluating the school against the mission against that. When we talk about diversity, diversity is not measured in the context of how the United States defines that term. It's anything but. We think we're very much consistent on the term diversity. Diversity is very contextual. How do you incorporate and help your students understand this economy, this world we live in? And other cultures, respect for other cultures is part of that process. Not that you've got to have a lot of different kinds of students with different kind of faculty and so on. But that's really the essence of it.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
My name is Tom. I'm a retired professor.
Yes.
And I visited AACSB in 1994, and I met a Japanese lady there. And she sort of guided me.
Karen Martinez.
Yes. Is she still there?
Unfortunately, I have to report it. Sadly, Karen passed away. I'm sorry. Karen was a dear friend of ours, worked for AACSB many, many years, and fought 2 gallant battles against cancer. And the last one she lost. And she passed away in December of 2003. Yes, in 2003. After 2 bouts with initially breast cancer and then another form of cancer. So I'm sad that she's no longer with us. But she was she was a leader of accreditation for many, many years, and I'm sure, yes, many of us remember her very, very dearly. She's the reason probably I'm here today, or sitting and standing in front of you, because she got help get me involved at a very early stage of AACSB in my work.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. We very much appreciate that.
Well, I have one simple question. That is any single institution accredit both
Yes. Yes. Both. We have a number of institutions. Probably even have 3. Which is there's another accreditation for just MBA programs called AMBA out of the UK, and some have 3. But I got out of 40 to 50 schools have.
There must be around 50 schools that have both degrees and AACSB.
But that leads to my second question, that is related to your education. As you mentioned in the presentation about benchmarking and comparison for the purpose of grade accreditation, I wonder, European business school is vastly different in teaching and thought. So how can you compare? And how can you analyze and evaluate? Well, for example, in the case of France, University of Paris, education is vastly different from India. And also even the Grenoble, University of Grenoble, is quite different. I don't think they can compare most institutions' business education. I understand very much the reason why you emphasize diversity, but it's not a matter of diversity, but basis of education is quite different from France and Germany and Great Britain. How can you compare?
Sure. This is the reason that we are not using a tight system of indicators. Okay? Now, if the meaning, I assume that behind your question lies the assumption that there must be one best way of being a business school. Now, we believe that there is not. So you can be a good business school in different ways. You can be a good business school in a University of Paris way. You can be a good business school the INSEAD way, and you can be would be the school in another way. Okay? Now, of course, depending on what you're looking for, one school will be better than the other. This is like cars. It's not the same a minivan than a 4x4 than a sports car. But you certainly get very good minivans, very good sport cars, and you will not measure them with the same standards. Okay? Now, the same applies there. So, if we went asking everywhere for the same number of indicators, then what we could do is simply pass a questionnaire, get data from the schools, feed the data to a computer, and have the computer decide whether you fit the model or not. That's not what we are doing. What we are doing is go there, try to find out what it is that the place, the institution is trying to achieve, and prove to us, using the indicators that they believe relevant, okay, that they are doing a good job. Now, us, in this case, is a number of experienced people running business schools. They've seen business schools succeed, know their own, and know their peers reasonably well. So, these people are reasonably able to judge whether this portrays excellence in a business school. But excellence one way, different than excellence another.
Thank you very much. 시간이 너무 많이 지체가 됐습니다. 오늘 발표한 자료는 전부 나중에 저희 인증을 해서 프린트를 해가지고 참여하신 우리 학장님들이나 학교에 전달을 해드리겠습니다. 아직 홈페이지가 만들어져 있지 않기 때문에 만약에 필요하시다면은 아직 우리가 어플리케이트된 우리 대학학회가 있고 학장협의회의 홈페이지도 있고 그래서 그쪽에다 오늘 material을 전부 다 올려놓도록 그렇게 하겠습니다. 그래서 지금부터 한 15분 커피 브레이크를 갖고요.